Hey, what's going on? This is Instructor Mike, and we're going to react to this heartbreaking story of a young boy who lost his life at a daycare in Chicago. So, what you see here is a press conference with attorney Sierra Norris of C. Norris Law Firm out of Chicago. She's a great criminal defense litigator, and her firm also specializes in other forms of law. Okay, and some of you are like, "Well, Mike, why are you reacting to this story?" Well, as a parenting educator, some of you all know that I actually do facilitate parenting classes. I have clients in that space, in the space of parenting as a child developer, stuff like that. A philosopher who's very well read in child development. Plus, some of you all don't know that I've actually been uh, a member of the board of directors of a daycare consortium that actually services center-based and home-based daycare. So I've been involved in the child care space for quite some time. And so I'm very much qualified to speak and react to this incident. And so if you want to listen to this, this is also going to be on the podcast, Family Matters with Instructor Mike, on the YouTube page, Family Matters with Instructor Mike, Avoiding Unnecessary Mistakes, Dad, I Wish I Knew, all those outlets if you want to hear this podcast and hear this reaction to this. Now, I had a chance to listen to, and you're going to have that chance as well, to listen to the news conference regarding this. And of course, I had questions. So without delay, let's go on ahead and listen to this. And let's go on ahead and give the disclaimer pursuant to U.S. copyright law. Videos like this are authorized pursuant to U.S. copyright law in accordance with Title 17, United States Code, Section 107, for fair use, criticism, teaching. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. I'm a criminal justice lecturer and instructor. And in this context, also a child and parenting advocate, as well as an instructor in that discipline as well, and a philosopher. Okay, I'm a student. I love to learn. I love wisdom in this space. So I'm definitely qualified to speak to these, and you'll find out shortly as we begin to examine these things. Let's just go on ahead and start with the press conference, and let's just get right into it. Here we go.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming out. My name is attorney Sierra Norris. I'm the owner and founder of C. Norris Law Firm as well. Here with me is Evan Finicky and one of my other associates, Logan Mayers. We are announcing.
Oh, we would have these issues now. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. So we're having issues with the actual playing of the. All right, looks like we won't be reacting to this. Give it a minute. Yeah, no, looks like we won't be reacting to this. We won't be. I see some of the comments that are coming through. Yeah, issues are coming up. Yeah. Oh. All right, here we go.
For Baby J. Unfortunately, on February 20th, Baby J died in his sleep for what we believe is inadequate supervision during nap time. This daycare was placed on notice of. We are announcing the filing of our lawsuit on behalf of the parents of who we uh, love to call Baby J. Jalen was 2 years old and he was going to daycare. It's Grandma Jones Daycare. He attended Grandma Jones Daycare, and they created an action plan for Baby J. Baby J experienced seizures before, and the daycare created an action plan with the family so that they could adequately care for Baby J. Unfortunately, on February 20th, Baby J died in his sleep for what we believe is inadequate supervision during nap time. This daycare was placed on notice of Baby J's condition and had an action plan and worked closely with the parents in order to implement that action plan. And he had a seizure while sleeping, and it's our contention that he died because of loss of access of air to his brain, basically suffocation. But the core of this story, and we really wanted to give his parents, Jasmine and Jalen, an opportunity, because more at depth here is an issue that every American experiences, and we're dealing in an economic climate where everything is 3 times the price and everything is skyrocketing, and we are just surviving to make ends meet, and it's forcing parents to make impossible decisions on who is going to be responsible for their children. 0 through 5 years old is one of the most crucial developmental eras of a child. However, there's not a lot of government support. There's not a lot of community support. There's not a lot of support coming from companies to support families and their care for these children. And
so let's focus on the statement that Sierra correctly stated. Sierra correctly stated that there's not a lot of community support. There's not a lot of this, not a lot of that. She labeled that there are not a lot of these things. So let me ask you this question. Knowing that to be the case, should you have children? Not judging, not judging. I'm not responsible for what people perceive. I'm not responsible for what people believe. I'm not responsible for your truth, that truth, whatever the case may be. Knowing that she said some factual statements, and I don't know if they're factual entirely because this could be a matter of subjective or objective, neither here nor there. But if there's no community support, and some of you all, you know your families weren't there for you when you were younger. So now you're going to have a child and you have no support. I'm not talking about this family here. I'm just making a general statement. Should that be something that you should take into consideration prior to having a child? Does that make sense? Is that something you should take into consideration prior to having a child? Right? Hey, Nicole, how are you? Let's continue. Here we go.
Parents have to make impossible choices and find who to entrust with our most precious Americans, and that is our toddlers and our babies. And it's becoming more and more impossible to find high quality daycare. These parents believe that they did find high quality daycare, that they worked with that daycare to create an action plan to eliminate this from ever happening.
That's another part of the problem too, is that they believed they found high quality daycare. How do you know this daycare is a high quality daycare? That's the question that I have. How do you know, in fact, that this daycare is a high quality daycare? What's your standard? You have a right to believe what you want to believe, but is this belief a true thing? Do you, in fact, have a high quality daycare? Because they look good, because the daycare looks good, because it smells good, because it looks aesthetically pleasing. What are the qualifications of these people in the daycare? Not for things when they are good, but for things when they are bad. Nicole says this, and by the way, you all go follow her. She's an amazing person. A lot of educated young adults are now waiting or passing on having children altogether these days due to the cost of raising children and having a family. And that's important. That is important. No, they were in need of child care, not high quality or standard. Here we go. Let's continue to watch.
Because for whatever reason, that day, baby J was left unattended. There was no one to see his seizure, and it was not in sight. And therefore, the action plan that they put in place basically meant nothing because they couldn't catch what happened. I want to give, obviously, the parents an opportunity, but we have filed a lawsuit against the daycare. I always ask my clients, what is your form of justice? And it's not always monetary. There is no amount of money that is ever going to make this okay. We're thankful for you being here to give these parents a platform that we believe a lot of Americans are experiencing right now and being just placed in impossible situations. And that's proven over and over and over again. And we hope that bringing light to this situation calls into question our priorities as Americans when it comes to our young children. So I just want to give the opportunity for the mom and the dad to talk. And then Evan is lead counsel on the civil rights suit. So any questions about the suit, any medical, Evan will be able to answer that after the family has been given an opportunity to speak.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. My son was 2 years old when he passed away at Grandma Jones' daycare free. In 2023, they bugged us about getting an action plan for my son due to him having seizures. It was almost a month and a half that they didn't let him go back to school.
Now, this is the problem that I see here. Let's go back, because as soon as she took the podium, this is why it is very, very, very important to make sure that you talk to your clients, you see what they're going to talk about, you see what they're going to say, because if I am counsel, and I'm not an attorney, but if I am counsel for the respondents in this manner, I am going to have a problem and have a field day with this statement that she just made. Here we go.
Hi, Jasmine. My son was 2 years old when he passed away at Grandma Jones' daycare free. In 2023, they bugged us about getting an action plan for my son due to
They bugged us about getting an action plan for my son because he was having seizures. Sign off in the comments. What do you think I am thinking about that statement? You said increase the video volume. I don't know if I can increase that video volume. Yeah, it's as loud as it's going to be, so it's where it's at. They bugged her for an action plan. They didn't let him back in for 2 months. That means the parents weren't taking it seriously. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that could be alleged. You see what I'm saying? This is why it is important for, I'm not saying anything about Sierra Norris as an attorney, because I know she's a great criminal litigator, right? And the other gentleman in her law firm is lead counsel. But it's very important that you have a law firm that pays attention to these types of things. Now, these are not anybody else's words but Mom's. Mom said they bugged us. What does bug mean in that context? When you bug someone to do something, what, if anything, does that mean? What can the daycare provide as an offer of proof that they bugged? Destry even said it. Rule number 1, don't let the client speak. They may say something that would tie them in the butt. This is one such statement. They bugged us to get an action plan. Now, I can tell you this as a child developer, right? You can look at the DCFS rules, right? If, in fact, it's a situation where a child has a health issue and that issue poses great risk to the kids or to the staff, or it's the daycare has a right to refuse, a child until an action plan or some other type of steps can be taken to mitigate any type of potential issues that could affect the staff and the students or even the child themselves. Here we go.
It was almost a month and a half that they didn't let him go back to school without the action plan. We finally got the action plan, and they also gave us emergency medication to give my son if he had seizures. He took medication during the daytime, and he had emergency one for school. They failed to give it to him. When the ambulance arrived there, no seal on the medication was popped, nor have the action plan been looked at. In fact, it's in the same bag that I brought them when I brought the medication. It's really nothing that would bring my son back. I just want justice.
How you guys doing? I'm Dad, Jalen Allen Branch Sr. Um, I've been waiting for an opportunity to actually get my voice out there for not only my group and my, I would say, support system to hear, but for the world to hear. This recent situation was a pure situation of negligence, unattentiveness, not caring enough, and no sense of urgency. My son was 2 years old, around other 2 and 1 year olds that parents have trusted this establishment to be able to take care of the kids while they're out doing the things that they really don't even want to do. But we have to. And this life inflation is shot through the roof, and all we're trying to do is play catch up. Some are blessed and some aren't, or some are.
See, problems that I have with a statement like this is if in fact you know that inflation is where it is and prices and things have shot through the roof and you don't want to be out here working hard, why did you have children? Because see, you don't know if you're going to have a healthy child. You'd like to believe you're going to have a healthy child, but you don't know in fact that you're going to have a healthy child. Do you know that? You don't know that. So if in fact these things are true, which you hear that as a theme, can't find quality child care. It's hard to find high quality child care, which it's actually not, but it is, right? That's another statement, right? And in fact, things are hard. Why would you bring a child into your struggle? Let's continue.
Are blessed in other ways. In this situation, I work 7 to 7 every single day. I sacrifice having time with my kids so that I'll be able to provide for my kids. So I instilled my trust into an establishment that I'm well aware of to be able to take care of him to the fullest capacity.
Are you well aware? Are you well aware? How deep did you do research by asking that company, right? What are the qualifications of you, the director, and the assistants there? What are the resumes, right? How many continuing education classes have you taken, right? What kind of classes are they? If I have a child that has a specific medical need, which is what this is referencing, when was the last time you dealt with a child that had these types of seizures, right? And, right, though you can't give me the specific child, though you can't give me certain information, you can tell me about your pedagogy, your methodology, right, of how qualified this person is. Who's the nurse? Are they there? Are they attentive, right? Daily health checks. See, now I'm speaking that daycare language. Every day, children have to go through daily health checks, right? When the child was received into the daycare, how was the child, right? Was the child normal? Were they functioning? Did they have any appearances of having, loss of breath, You know, it's a variety of different. There's a daily health care check sheet that daycare providers are mandated for each child to go through. Who does those health care checks? Who's responsible for keeping up that documentation? And there's a monthly spreadsheet. Their quarterly is just too much. How you trusted this daycare. What does that trust look like? Because it's called Grandma Jones. That's the name of the daycare. Because it's called Grandma Jones. Oh, because in Black culture, grandma got it, right? So all grandmas are good. All grandmas are trustworthy. All grandmas are attentive. All grandmas are caring. Or are we just dropping off our children, and as long as nothing happens, no smoke, no fire, no harm, no foul? Maybe God will fix it. Maybe it'll be okay. Am I asking valid questions, or am I just, does that make sense? Let's continue.
We've been hounded, talked to, questioned about different documents and medical documents that they would need for baby J to be able to return to school. As Mom said, we've done it. We've done it all. There's only so many things that we can do that are in our control. When we drop him off at that front door, at that point, you guys are in charge of his life. You guys are in charge of his well-being, because I'm 20 minutes away. I can't get there fast enough. That's why you guys are there. That's why an action plan is placed. That's why there's steps and I would say trainings that they actually went through.
Now, speaking of those steps and speaking of that training that they went through and this action plan, what's an action plan in the hands of someone who's not qualified to act on that plan? And I can tell you firsthand that as a trainer, right, exposure to steps and what you should do versus actually doing those things under stress are two different things. I can guarantee you that the training that these daycare providers went through was not a stress-induced training. I can tell you it was not a stress-induced training. They didn't have real asthmatics or real persons who were engaged in you get what I'm saying? Like, this is a medical issue. This is surrounding medical issue. When surgeons need to practice doing surgery, do they do it theoretically or do they practically do it? Right? People can talk about common sense, but what's the definition of common sense? Good sense and sound judgment in practical matters. Practical, the definition is of a concerning with the actual doing of things rather than just theories or ideas. So this training that you say that they went through, was this exposure to what you should do, or was this a stress-induced training that actually put them through what to do under stress? Saying something 1,000 times is not the same thing as living it once. Everybody a gangster till the first shot is fired. Everybody says they can work in the ER until it's time to work in the ER. Everybody says they're okay with death and dying until you actually see the various types of ways that people die, the various types of accidents and the various types of incidents. And can you actually take the smell of a carcass rotting after the rigor mortis, liver mortis, and algor mortis periods of death? Can you take those things? People half-ass do CPR. Can you do CPR on a human being? Is it the same? You get what I'm saying? So what is this action plan? And were they qualified? Right now, he did make a statement. When I drop off my child and they are in your care, it is 100% your responsibility. Pursuant to loco parentis or in loco parentis, which is Latin for in absence of the parents, yes, they are 100% responsible. But there's two types of responsibility. There's the assumption of responsibility, and then there's applied responsibility. Assumed responsibility is, yes, I do have the responsibility for this thing. Why? I took on the job, or I was given the job and I accepted the terms and conditions of that. But applied responsibility is actually having the knowledge, skills, abilities, competence, and confidence to actually be able to do what is my responsibility under the various stressors that can happen in these given situations. And if you did not check into those things, that action plan is nothing without the ability to be able to act on those things. There's more.
It's not only just about justice, it's about prevention, to prevent something like this to happen again. Of course, we're going to get justice. Of course, they're going to know his name. Not only do I share his name, he has his own. Baby J is his own man and his own kid and his own face. It's just, he so happens to look like me. So there's a lot to be said and a lot to be done, and a lot will be said and a lot will be done in the right way, the Jesus way, the Christ way, and the integrity way. And that's all I have to say.
If I may ask you or Mom, can you talk to us about what specifically this action plan entails? What were they supposed to do?
So an action plan is put in place just in case an episode like this happens. So he had his first seizure, well, his second seizure at school. Once he had his second seizure, he was not able to return. And he wasn't able to return until he actually had a plan for them to follow in order to save his life if something like this was to happen. They didn't do that.
And what was that plan?
So okay.
See, that right there, her coming to him, telling him about not talking about the details of the case, that should not have taken place. That should not have taken place. In fact, who should be at that podium answering those questions? Your lawyer. Your lawyer should be at the podium answering those questions. So as a person who is familiar with the legal system, whatever that may be, I wouldn't have this law firm representing me because they don't know how to save me from me. Does that make sense? Like, why would you put the people who are operating under the influence of stress with not that much intelligence? And I'm not saying they are ignorant in and of themselves, but they could be ignorant to a lot of procedures as it relates to the law and how them speaking could cause themselves to entrap themselves into a can of worms that this lawyer and her firm would have to litigate. Why would you invite this family to do that to themselves? Only inexperienced litigators would do such a thing. Like if this were a criminal case, she would never let the defendant speak. No, because you're going to say something that could be used against you at trial. You see what I'm saying? And this is an active case. Why would you do that? You should be forefront and center answering these questions.
So from when they asked for it, we definitely have many visits to the actual daycare. Mom, especially because I'm at work. And when I do go, I'm able to actually voice myself. We've sat down, we've given papers have been lost. We've given papers to be faxed. Papers have never been faxed.
So if in fact it's the case that you've given papers to this daycare, if in fact they have lost these papers and these papers have never been faxed, you mean to tell me if they couldn't handle the papers right, they could handle your son right? So you gave them paperwork in the past and they lost that. So then after them losing that, we're going to say, here's now my child. Make it make sense. I may be wrong, but I doubt it. Make it make sense. Come on. You crucifying yourself with your own mouth. Papers. We gave them things they lost. Clearly, if in fact this is the case, They are negligent. So now here's my child. You might as well give them over to the funeral directors. They would do better care with your child than the daycare would, obviously.
And as far as his action plan, it seems as though we got everything going just for them to put it to the side like it just wouldn't happen. They treated it like it wouldn't happen.
And can I? Yeah, it's okay. Can I? And I just want to add to that. Yeah, of course. And I just want to add to that. One of the parts of the action plan that, of course, yeah. One of the parts of the action plan here that may or may not have been critical was giving medication following a seizure, following a medical event. Here, the parents had provided medication that could be administered had the seizure or medical event been observed or supervised. The lawsuit is alleging that this child was left unsupervised and unobserved for too long. Had they not been, perhaps steps could have been taken to give medication or respond to this event. However, we don't even know if that would have happened because following finding baby J, there was still a long period of time before any steps were taken, and none of the steps on the action plan appear to be taken at any point here.
Watch break.
Now there was more in another press conference that they had, and I'm not going to try to go find that press conference because there was more that they had to say regarding. I think this one. It's one of those. Yeah, I can't find it on here. It's another one, but there was actually a longer press conference where in that press conference, let me get off this real quick. In that press conference, the mom actually talks about she saw the daycare worker standing by the medicine cabinet and didn't do anything upon her arrival. How do you know, in fact, this was the case if mom was if the daycare, the main teacher, the head teacher of her child's classroom was standing there, I think I might be misquoting what she said. And I gotta find that. I'm not gonna find it right now because I gotta go. I got things to do. But if in fact that was the case, how do you know that they were standing there? How do you know? Did you watch this? Did you witness this? There's just so much negligence. And the negligence is not just on the daycare's side. The negligence is on the mom's side too. I don't know if we could blame the dad too. I don't want to say blame. Blame, that's a strong word. But we can put that in the hands of the dad as well because neither one of you actually did your due diligence in discovering who is actually watching your child. I'm going to read this last comment and then you all can listen to the rest of this. There's going to be a part 2 to this. Okay. Because it's more to this. It's more to this. You said daycares have gotten so bad in the last 5 years. They're not hiring care providers with the education or experience. They're hiring random people off the street and calling them helpers. Yes. Yes. And the thing is, if you don't do the work to actually investigate who's watching your children, you don't know that this person isn't qualified to watch your child because your child isn't coming home and telling you anything. You're trusting that you're trusting that the fact that if there's no smoke, there's no fire. If there's no smoke, there's no fire. And that is horrible. That is horrible. I really want you all to hear this. Hold on for a minute. Because it's longer than this. I want y'all to hear it from their mouths, not from mine, because it was so much. There we go. There we go. Yes. Hold on for a minute. Yes. Yeah, because we're not gonna let that just sit. We're not gonna let that just sit because I don't want to speculate. There's more to it. It was 26 minutes. There we go. There's the other half of that. Here we go.
They were having a medical event here, potentially a seizure, also potentially choking following the seizure. What we do know is baby Jay suffered from lack of oxygen from his brain for too long. Again, had someone discovered him, had someone followed the action plan, had someone just given proper supervision, intervention could have happened in this instance, and baby Jay would have still been alive.
And in the action plan, was there a certain amount of time, a minimum amount of time, or excuse me, maximum amount of time that between check-ins, between observations, was that included in the action plan?
So for the action plan, on the action plan, it states the moment he starts seizing, if it's over 3 to 5 minutes, you give him his diazepam. That's the emergency medication. Right after diazepam, you immediately call 911. However, diazepam was not given. And on top of the fact, the main teacher who knows how to use it, knows that he has medication and know where it was standing next to the medicine cabinet the whole entire time and did not direct them to his medication until I walked in the building. At that point, my son was in an ambulance.
So my question is this: if in fact she made that statement, what's her offer of proof that she knows in fact that the teacher was standing where she was standing and did not administer this medication? Now, I believe that the medication wasn't administered because the seal was still intact. Okay, so there's the offer of proof for that. But how do you know that the teacher was standing there? In fact, I have another question. What are the signs and symptoms that you can see on this boy or any child in terms of the onset of a seizure? Now, trucker wife, you said video surveillance. The lead counsel for this client stated they had not received the video yet. So if they hadn't received the video yet, are we speculating? What's the offer of proof that you have that you're going to give to the court that shows that, granted, something was not done for sure. Something was not done. We know that for a fact, right? But I'm just, the statements being made. This is why you don't let your client speak. You don't let your client speak, not like this.
And I asked, did they give him his emergency medication? And nobody knew anything. One of the teachers, in fact, said he doesn't take medication. So epilepsy.
How long were you at the daycare at that point? Had you been with them?
My son been going there since he was 5 months.
Oh wow, so long time.
Yes. October would have been 2 years since he has had a seizure. It's just a bunch of confusion right now. They hired workers. It did not tell them what to do. Everybody was completely confused.
So if in fact you know they hired workers and didn't tell them what to do, why did you still leave your child there? Are you all spotting the pattern of negligence on the part of the parents? And this is why your client shouldn't speak in the media. Because if I'm counsel for the daycare, granted, you're going to still end up settling. Let's talk facts, right? That's going to happen. It's a settlement. It's civil, right? But you see the negligence on the part of the parents as well. Daycare not doing what they're supposed to do. You see what I'm saying? Yes, the staff is definitely negligent for sure, right? But I see the negligence on the part of the parents too, because the parents are not without responsibility for baby Jay losing his life. If in fact your son developed a condition that required him to get that type of attention and care, do we keep baby Jay? Now, you said according to the video, it appears that one of the employees opened the medicine chest after the police officer requested it. That way she or he can get it to the ambulance and the paramedics. Yeah. I wouldn't say that wouldn't be something that couldn't happen. That is something that could happen for sure. But how qualified are these people? Yes, they should have been asking questions about the administration of medicine daily. But my question is this, I'm going to be done in a little bit. My question is this: if they were losing paperwork, do you trust them to be responsible to administer the medicine on time? You see, when I say certain controversial things, such as parents, you know what I said before, parents ruin children. Parents don't pay attention to these little things. These little things are what matters. Now, I don't know anything about either of these two people. They could be great people. That's not what I'm focusing on. I'm advocating for the baby who did not deserve to die, who deserved to have people, both parents and staff, that paid attention to the child.
So we're more so mad that they left him unattended, but with the directors, it was your job to make sure every teacher knew his action plan and what to do and how to give it to him. And
yes, it was also your job to make sure the director did their job. Doesn't that go both ways? If dad said they lost paperwork and they had been losing things and they got a history of negligence with you, what makes you think they were going to pay the same type of attention now that a medical episode? And here's this. I will commend the daycare of telling the parents the child can't come back. You know what they should have done? Not let that child back. But these daycares are trap houses. These daycares only care about the kids because of the money that's involved. They're getting money from the state, Action for Children, other state funding sources that pay for childcare so long as you're working or in school. It's the money they're chasing. Some of these daycares do not care about, matter of fact, I would say more than some of these daycares, especially in the Black community. They don't care about these kids. You'll be surprised. See, some of you all, matter of fact, I would say half, if not most of you all, you go to work. You don't pop in on the daycares. You don't do what you're supposed to do. You don't monitor these daycares. The reason why your son may lack the knowledge, or your daughter may lack the knowledge of a lot of things they need to know, is some of these daycares, in fact, half of these daycares, the TVs teach them. The TVs teach them. These teachers don't teach them. That's why your son still can't read. Your son still can't read, not just because you're not reading to them, but these daycares ain't reading to them. The daycares aren't doing things to help them. They're not addressing their social, emotional, their cognitive and developmental skills that they need to get. These daycares are not doing that. You think they are because your child looks like they've come to you refreshed and, you know, oh my God, I had fun at school. Well, what does this fun look like? What does this fun look like? Some of y'all don't care. You don't care about what happens to your kid. As long as your kid don't come back dead, you don't care that your child didn't learn anything, but you wonder why your child can't read. Or do you even care? You probably can't even read. You can get mad at me all you want to. I don't really care because I'm advocating for the children. They deserve better. They don't deserve your struggle.
Nobody knew that.
What do you want us to know about your little boy? What do you want us to know about your little boy?
Jalen is amazing. He's so bright beyond his years. I say this all the time. One of my favorite things about my son is that
in this case, Mr. Branch and Jasmine did everything above and beyond that a parent can do to empower the daycare providers here. They worked with them. They went back.
Lies, 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 lies. LIES, lies. They did not do everything, because if they were losing paperwork, what makes you think they was going to take care of your kid? They did not do everything. Lies. Lies. I'm going to say lies. Lies. LIES, big lies. Lies, lies, lies. If these people were losing your child's paperwork, would you entrust them with your child's health? Lies. Lies. Yes, just lies. Sorry. Now, don't get me wrong. Their intentions, great. Their intentions were great. Their heart is in it for sure. But they did not do everything. And I'm not faulting them because they don't know what to do. It's not their fault. It's not in my opinion, it's not the parents' fault of not knowing what to do. Black culture does not cultivate teaching its children about family and consumer affairs, or family and consumer sciences, otherwise known as home economics. Black culture cultivates Black boys for protection, provision, and penis. It cultivates Black girls for cooking, cleaning, children, caring, and coochie. That's it. See, we can create kids, but what do we do with them? Black culture does not teach. I'm not talking about Black history. Black history and Black culture are two different things. Culture, sociologically, values, symbols, language, norms and rituals, and material culture. And these things can change over time. Black culture does not cultivate teaching its children how to be qualified husbands and fathers, mothers and wives. We can get into these things, but we're not qualified for it. You can be mad at me. I don't care. I got empirical evidence. When you're a scientist and a scholar in this space, you can speak to it with a factual basis. Now, white folks ain't going to tell you because you're going to call them racist, but they write about it in books. So it ain't their fault. They got a responsibility for sure, but they weren't able to respond. So I'm not blaming them. No, this is a cultural issue. This is definitely a cultural issue. And they're not the only ones. It's just the recent ones. All right, I'm going to land. Sign off in the comments. What are your thoughts? All that great stuff. You can go on ahead and listen to the rest of this on ABC 7. I think this was on Fox News, whatever the case may be. You could chime in the podcast, Family Matters with Instructor Mike. This will be over there. You can also watch it on Dad I Wish I Knew on YouTube, Avoiding Unnecessary Mistakes, Family Matters with Instructor Mike on YouTube, all that great stuff. Sign off in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.